the inescapable conclusion that I came to after rewatching Steelers-Ravens
let me hear
is
it.
this. How in the hell did the Steelers win that game?
Right. It is. It's kind of like when you watch it back, you just go, wow. The Ravens really outplayed the Steelers on both sides of the football. And I don't want to disrespect the Steelers in any way because, again, part of their magic is we're big, we're ferocious, we're fast on the football field, we hit hard, and we force bad things to happen, certainly. But the Ravens are the type of football team that is that way too, and I think, the way Lamar, the offense moved the ball continually through the day, you went, okay, yeah, Ravens, other than the turnovers, kind of won the matchup in the meat and potatoes part of the game. And then on the other side of the ball, too, I mean, hey, Pittsburgh offense couldn't do jack diddly squat until the third quarter. I mean, they could not do anything. There was nothing in the first half. And they just hung in there. And this is why you sign players and have big-time playmakers on your football team. We talk about, why can't this team get over the hump or this team close a game out or do that? Well, this is where players come through. And in big games, the Steelers just got so many of those type of guys that they made a lot of these type of plays in the big moments, and that's how they won the football game, Mike. But you're right. I mean, when you sit there and watch it, you go, I don't know. I mean, if they play 10 times, I think the Ravens win their share of them. But we'll see where that goes the next time they match up.
The turning point in the game came on the first snap from scrimmage for the Ravens in the second half. They're up 17-7. They held the Steelers. The Steelers punted. Lamar Jackson floats that ball that I don't know what he was thinking. Right. It gets picked off by Highsmith. That sets up the short field. The Steelers score 2 plays later. They go 21 yards. It was a nice catch and run by Eric Ebron to the end zone.
Yep.
That makes it 17-14. That's the moment the game changes. And then the Steelers get the ball back. And their longest drive of the day was 57 yards. That's it.
Right.
57 yards. They had 20 yards in penalties to make it a 77 total yard drive. And there was a what was it? There was a 15-yard penalty that really fueled it.
Yeah, there was a face mask and a PI on the drive. That was part of the game. That was part of the game, Mike. I'm glad you brought it up. The 2 long drives for the Steelers, and the drive you're talking about is the one where they were down 17-14 and they scored to make it 21-17. The one thing that I noticed in the game, at least watching it back, is, yes, okay, here it is. What jump-started the Steelers' offense? I can't say it was anything schematically more than just they finally just started to play one-on-one ball. Hey, you over there, get open against that guy, and Big Ben will throw it on the outside corner, and you catch it for 6 yards. Hey, you over there, run a curl route. Big Ben will throw it to you. We'll get 8 yards. They kind of just started nickel and diming them that way with one-on-one matchups and then took a few shots where they got pass interference. So, yes, it's not going to look great on the total yards, for your offense and things like that. But there was probably close to 70 or 80 yards in pass interference calls on the Ravens. And that shows you, again, the value of, hey, you're going to play us aggressive. We got to take our shots, not just to back you off, but because this day and age in the NFL, interference is a big part of the game. And that was smart on Big Ben's, his part too. And I wonder if Baltimore will adjust next time they play a little bit.
And it was the drive that put the Steelers ahead 21-17. They got 20 yards in field position from a pass interference call with Ray McLeod, who was on the field a lot running routes for the Steelers on Sunday. And then the face mask came up on their final drive that resulted in points when they went back ahead 28-24. It was 45 yards that they gained the old-fashioned way. 35 yards on the drive came from penalties.
Yes.
And that's the one that included the face mask and fueled that drive that allowed the Steelers to go ahead and then to hold off the Ravens. But, yeah, when you watch that game and you look at how the Ravens ran the ball, they averaged 5.6 yards per carry. They turned out 265 yards. It just felt like a suffocation, but the Steelers just kept hanging around, and it never looked pretty. Right? And, it was sputtering, and the running game, you'd see a flash of James Conner runs for 18, and then they bottle him up, and the drive's over. And but the Steelers just that's the thing, the resilience. And I think I really do believe this. I think that last year's struggles and their effort last year to hold it together and not just fall apart when Roethlisberger was lost for the season in week 2 and they had bad quarterback play behind him. I think that fire they went through week in and week out and trying to win games and winning more than they should have.
Yeah.
I really do think that mentality has carried over to this year where they never give up in any game. And they haven't been outplayed like they were yesterday in a long time, or Sunday rather, in a long time. And they still got that win.
Yeah.
But it does set the stage for a great game coming up 3 weeks from Thursday night on NBC when the Ravens go to Pittsburgh. What a way to end Thanksgiving.
Oh, my gosh.
Because the Ravens are going to be pissed off. They're going to be salty, and it's going to be great to see if they can pull it off again. What do the Ravens need to do, though, when you look at the mistakes that were made
by
Lamar Jackson?
Right.
What do they need to do to iron those out? How did those happen?
Yeah, well, okay, so let's break it down. I mean, the first thing.
What do they need to do to iron those out? How did those happen?
Yeah, well, okay, so let's break it down. I mean, the first interception. I mean, that's just bad football, and Lamar just misread the field. He kind of looks left at a short route, and he comes back to the right side. And without really diagnosing where Spillane, the new middle linebacker, to come in for Devin Bush is, he kind of just turns and throws it blind without kind of assessing what it looks there. I think he just thought, wow, I've been looking left. That surely moved the coverage underneath that way. There should be a hole. Bam, I'll hit it right there. So he did a great job of kind of staying there, and he was kind of ready to make the jump. So, hey, you got to see throws. So that happens at times. He made a mistake. Now, the other turnover that's concerning is it's 7-7, another drive where Baltimore just goes right down the field on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And they had their way, like you said, in the run game. It kind of started off early on with like edge runs and, oh, man, the Steelers can't get Lamar on the edge and some of the running backs. And then they overcompensated, tried to stop the edge runs. And then Baltimore was like, okay, you're trying to stop the edge runs here. We're going to smash it up your face now and go right up the middle. They really had a good way about that. But the game is 7-7, and then he holds the ball way too long in the pocket. I mean, that's the golden rule when you play Pittsburgh for really about the last 30 years. You can't hold the ball too long. They're coming. They got more big, bad mofos like we talked about yesterday than just about any team on the planet. So that is where you have to play them differently than other teams. Your interception to start the second half, you talked about, Mike, the throw where he tried to throw it over Highsmith. There's a lot of issues there. That's Spider 3 banana. Highsmith, somebody go back and watch the play. The Mark Andrews does not run the route deep enough, one. Highsmith is covering Ricard, the fullback, in the flat, yet he can cover both of them because they're so close together, he kind of midpoints them. And, yeah, Lamar took a chance and tried to get it in there and didn't get it done, obviously. But, I think the big thing is mistakes for Baltimore. Even the first touchdown is Patrick McQueen, Eric Ebron wide open the shallow cross. They shot themselves in the foot repetitively throughout the day in that game, But they're going to be able to walk away, and like we said, in a lot of ways, they're going to feel like, man, we screwed this up. We could have handled this game a whole lot different and probably controlled it. And that's where it's going to be interesting on Thanksgiving night to see how they bounce back from this.
And that running game was so impressive. They're trying to force a passing game into the mix. They're trying to make Lamar Jackson a drop-back passer to complement the skill set, the incredible skill set at running the football. And it makes sense. You never want to be one-dimensional. But when you can gash a team for 265 yards, and you're doing it without Mark Ingram. I mean, think about what Mark Ingram is feeling after seeing the performance from Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins with Ingram out. They're going to come to the conclusion they don't need Ingram after this year.
Most likely.
With Edwards and Dobbins.
Right.
And why would you not do that again, Chris, if they can't stop it? That's one thing the Steelers couldn't do on Sunday is stop it. Do you expect, based on what you saw, that that's exactly what they're going to do the next time? Just keep running and force them to stop it and just assume that the fluky little things aren't going to happen that give the Steelers a chance to win?
I think they're going to rely more on the run game next game. I do, because they're not going to trust Lamar Jackson all the way. And that's where the interesting chess match goes, because this, like we talked about a little, like this was Pittsburgh's first real look at like, whoa, Lamar and the Baltimore Ravens hitting on all cylinders type of offense. And they struggled with it. They did. There's no doubt. Like I said, they kind of, started off the game hitting them on edge runs and then started working their way up the middle. There's just a lot to defend with the run game in general, because they do such a great job of Baltimore moving people, doing things, creating more gaps to cover on a certain run play to where you go, oh, I think we have everybody covered, all the gaps covered over here. But now, they do a speed sweep and pull a guard, and they have a fullback, and all of a sudden there's 3 more gaps to that side. And can you get over there and fill all those gaps in time? They really stress you out that way. So that's where it'll be interesting. And I think Pittsburgh will learn some things about, how to play him and how they want to play the game in general next time around. That'll be interesting to see. The other thing too, Mike, that I think is worth bringing up, and why I think the next time, to like what you're saying, why not just run it and keep running it? On the last drive of the second to last drive of the game, right? The drive that ends up in Lamar Jackson running the quarterback draw on 4th down, and he fumbles, and Minkah Fitzpatrick, all that. That drive right there, Baltimore ran the ball every play. Pittsburgh played 3 down linemen and 5 linebackers with only 3 DBs in the game the whole drive. They basically were saying, please throw it, Baltimore. Look at these great looks we're going to throw. And they played, and Baltimore still didn't throw it. They ran the ball, and they ran it successfully. But I think that'll just embolden them next time to go run it. And I think it also says a lot about Pittsburgh basically said, go ahead, try to beat us with the pass. We're not going to let the run game beat us. We don't think you can beat us with the pass. Now, they were fortunate the run game worked, but I thought it showed something on Pittsburgh, and then I showed something on Baltimore, and the fact that they just ran it even though there was only 3 DBs in the game, and there was all these guys at the line of scrimmage, to where they didn't even want to flirt with that and Lamar Jackson either. To me, that was a little bit of a psychology analysis by me, but I think it says a lot.
But I think it speaks to the reality that the Ravens and Lamar Jackson specifically, if they get a lead and if things start going well early, it snowballs, right?
Yes.
It's like the game last year against the Dolphins when Miami came out and said, we're not letting you run it, beat us over the top. And Lamar said, okay, I will.
Right.
And I think if you give the Ravens a look like that right out of the gates, they will throw it. But after there's been some mistakes, and maybe after Greg Roman and John Harbaugh are thinking, he's a little off today, he's made some mistakes, we're not going to take chances that maybe they'd be willing to take right out of the gates. Because, look, they threw on the first drive, and it was a pick 6. Even it wasn't down the field, but still, it was a pick 6 on the third play from scrimmage. So I think you're right, and if they can't, look, that's the thing. If Pittsburgh just can't stop the run, it doesn't matter how they configure the defense. The Ravens will just keep running a game. That's the safest way to chew up the game, score points, and win. So here's the problem, though. And this gets back to the spring of 2019, when the Ravens are looking for receivers and no free agents want to sign with the Baltimore Ravens. And so what do? You start drafting guys like Miles Boykin and Hollywood Brown. And now, look, last year, and it's funny when you look at his numbers week by week, last year and this year. Hollywood Brown had a 100-yard game week 1 each of his first 2 NFL seasons. And then after that, the numbers go down. But if you're winning, who cares if you have -2 yards receiving in a game if the team is winning? But if you've got 3, even if that 3 yards was a touchdown and you lose, you go to Twitter. And that's what he did. What's the point of having soldiers when you never use them? And then to emphasize the point in parentheses with 2 exclamation points, never. He deleted that tweet, but, the point was made, and you never really can delete anything in this day and age. So let's hear from John Harbaugh on Hollywood Brown showing that frustration with his lack of involvement in the offense on a day that the team didn't win.
I'll tell you this, he did play the game like a soldier. He was fighting very hard out there, blocking and running routes, and had obviously big touchdown catch, almost another one right before that. So, I like the way he was fighting. I don't disagree with the fact that if he's saying he's a soldier, but I promise you we're trying to use all of our guys. He knows that. Probably a little frustrated, but he's not a selfish guy. I don't believe he is for 1 second. If he was, he wouldn't play as hard as he did or be the good guy that he is around the building every single day. So I have a lot of trust in him. And the fact that he took it down, I appreciated that.
Wow. Look, It may have been a very different conversation between John Harbaugh and Hollywood Brown behind the scenes, but the coach isn't going to throw gasoline on the fire publicly. He handled it the way he had to. But, again, anyone wondering why they didn't sign Antonio Brown, this is why. You don't want to add another guy to the mix who wants the football for a team that from time to time is just going to say, screw it, we're going to run the ball.
Yeah, no doubt. And, listen, John Harbaugh, he understands the kind of guys he's, recruited and signed there with the Baltimore Ravens. They're not a bunch of Boy Scouts, that's for sure. So he realizes that he's going to have a few guys pop off every now and then. It's, that's the risk they take of having that kind of renegade, tough guy team mentality. It's a little bit like Pittsburgh that way. Going to have to deal with personalities, certainly. But you're right. It's always going to be an issue. And I'll say this, just as long as you're running that offense, it's going to be an issue as far as receivers are concerned and all that. But they got to find more of a specific role for Hollywood Brown. It's something I've written in my notes for a few weeks where I just go, the lack of wide receiver involvement in their offense is concerning. And again, we're not holding Baltimore to can they beat the crappy teams in football? I'm talking about, they need to get them involved if they want to win the Super Bowl and beat the top teams in football, the Chiefs, the Steelers, those type of teams. And with Hollywood Brown, he's not a kind of guy where you can just go, hey, we're going to line you up there and we're just going to go one-on-ones all day. No, he's not that way. He's not big. If he gets disrupted and jam coverage off the line of scrimmage, the play's over that way. But they need to find more of the same thing we see with Deebo Samuel and those type of things. Speed sweeps, all those type of things. More wide receiver screens. Intended pure shots down the field just for Hollywood Brown. I do think it's an element of their offense to where it'd be a nice way to get cheap completions for Lamar Jackson, another weapon to worry about out on the edge with the Baltimore Ravens, and, of course, give some love to the receivers that way. It's one area where I do sometimes look at them and just go, ooh, they need to find a way to get him the ball more just because he's too damn fast to not touch it enough times.
Hey, one guy who jumped off the screen last night rewatching the game was Willie Snead.
Ooh,
Willie Snead.
Right?
Willie Snead made big catch after big catch and really helped keep that offense going when the passing game was sputtering. So, Hollywood Brown can't say we didn't throw.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Did.
Willie Snead's a soldier, too, so it was kind of disrespectful. But you're right. You're right. They did throw. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, but my point is they are capable of throwing. Now, some of those throws from Lamar Jackson had that feel of desperation, and it's like the ball just pops up, and a couple of times he found a guy down the middle of the field and just happened to be a big hole there, and that's where the ball landed.
Right.
Still, it came down to that throw in the end zone. And Snead, 5 catches, 106 yards.
Right.
Not a bad day for Willie Snead. And of 208 passing yards, he had more than half of them. But the last play of the game, it was intended for Snead. Minka Fitzpatrick broke it up. When you look at that more carefully, was someone else maybe more open, or was that just destined to not work from 25 yards or so out with time running out?
Yeah, just destined too hard there. That to me is, again, a little bit of what we said. I don't think that changes from what we said yesterday. You got to scramble around in those instances and make a play.
Why? Why you got to scramble around?
Because
you want to try to draw one of the defensive backs towards you?
Right. You got to create some holes because think it. They had 8 men in coverage. They know they don't have to worry about getting beat behind them, right? Their eyes, their body, everything is ready to, I'm watching the quarterback and we're ready to run forward and attack, right? So within that, it's very hard to throw a ball in your normal, I'm going to take a 5-step drop and hit the ground and throw it like you normally would in that moment there. You'd have to have somebody wide open to be able to fit that type of throw. You'd have a coverage bust. It's just too hard to where, I would have liked to see him go back there, scramble around, buy time, see if he can get some secondary people to move, and then you throw some sort of laser into the end zone. I think those are the best way. That would be the one thing I would have looked at, Mike. And it was tough. It's too tough to throw that ball with that many people in coverage ready to react.
Let's flip it back to the Pittsburgh offense for a second. They go up 7-0 on the pick six. The Ravens outscore them the rest of the first half, 17-0. Mike Tomlin talked about making halftime adjustments. Was there anything you noticed? Again, they had drives that didn't require them to do a whole lot thanks to penalties and short fields, but did you notice anything different in the offense and specifically in the passing game when we got into the second half.
No, I definitely did. And there's two things to hit. I want to hit on this here. With one with the Pittsburgh, but then the other one with the Baltimore's defense. But yeah, definitely. In the first half, and this is one of the reasons I picked the Ravens to win the game, was some of the pick plays, shallow cross picks, wide receiver screens type plays. Baltimore was all over that. They weren't going to let that de facto Steelers run game, wear them down with, a 6-yard screen here. A 4-yard short little pick play here. Another shallow crossers picking each other across the middle for 7 yards here. They weren't going to let that stuff beat them. And then what I felt like Pittsburgh did in the second half to finally get rolling is what I wrote in my notes, they just played one-on-one ball. Hey, you're one-on-one out here. Hey, Claypool, run 10 yards, stop. I'm going to throw it on your chest. Hey, you're over here. It's one-on-one. Work them outside. I'll throw a slant in there. They kind of just said that. It was like the hell with the scheme. Hey, they're in man-to-man. Big Ben, I like this matchup, and he threw that. And then there was a few little short passes where they caught them in zone and just a few handful of plays. But to me, that's all it came down to. And that's all it needed to happen. And Big Ben, as you mentioned earlier, he took some shots that created some pass interference. There's some great value in that. But that's really all I could come up with, Mike, that I saw that I felt like was the big difference between first half and second half Steelers offense.
And I look, the game needs no more hype, and we're not going out of our way because it's an NBC game. I can't wait.
Yeah.
For this rematch, Thanksgiving night. This is the ultimate gift from the NFL for Thanksgiving night, to see this game again. The stakes will be as high as they can be. As we said last week, if the Ravens hope to avoid the Chiefs, if they hope to find a way to let someone else go in there in the divisional round and beat Kansas City while the Ravens are waiting for whoever it may be to come to them in the AFC Championship, they got to win the division.
Yeah.
And if they lose to the Steelers in 23 nights, they are not going to win the division, barring a complete and total collapse by Pittsburgh. It's too much ground to make up. So that game is going to be gigantic. All right,
Mike, one more thing. Go ahead. Just on Baltimore's defense, because this was a big move last week, and we really didn't it. Yannick Ngakoue, it's going to work. I mean, just from what I saw there, he popped a lot in the game, and I really think it's going to give Baltimore more versatility on defense. The fact now that they're going to just be able to rush 4 and be able to depend on that a little bit to like you're saying, you get in the playoffs and they got to go play Patrick Mahomes, where they've been burned those times and those type of things, is they got to blitz him. And then we know what happens there. It's one-on-one or blitz. He makes you miss and all that. That was a big move, and it showed real positive on Sunday. It did. He was around Big Ben a lot, so that'll be interesting to watch going forward.
He still isn't going to catch Patrick Mahomes. He's still not going to get Patrick Mahomes. Forget it. It ain't going to work if it gets down to that and if it's Chiefs-Ravens in the postseason. But that's a good point. And another thing we haven't mentioned, Ronnie Stanley out for the year for the Ravens. Missed most of the game. They still were able to run the ball with his replacement. But they need to stay healthy, because if guys start going down and continue going down on the offensive line, it's going to be hard to open those holes, and it's going to be hard for the Ravens to keep running the football.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.